West Virginia, home of the Blue Ridge Mountains, coal mining, and the birthplace of Jennifer Garner. This is the story of an abandoned amusement park located in Mercer County. This site is so peculiar that it's been featured on Travel Channel's The Most Terrifying Places in America and has been listed as one of the 10 most haunted places in the world by ABC Family. Paranormal researchers have investigated the abandoned park and have collected several pieces of unexplained phenomena. Sounds of children's laughter has been captured. Ghostly apparitions have been seen sitting on the broken rides, waiting for the ride to begin. They've also recorded the sounds of drumming, similar to that of a battalion getting ready for battle. Eerily, others have also reported feeling touched and even pushed violently. Many have cause to believe that there may be something darker going on at the abandoned park. But why? What exactly happened at this abandoned park that would stir up such negative forces? This was at one time a fun-filled place of laughter, joy, and entertainment for the whole family. What happened at this park, and why was it abruptly closed in 1966, never to reopen? In 1926, a man named Conley Snitto purchased land near Lake Shawnee in Mercer County with the hopes of building a park filled with carnival rides and attractions that would entertain the surrounding coal mining families. He named it Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, and he built between the intersections of two main roads so as to attract as many visitors as he could. He had a number of rides constructed that were impressive at the time. A Ferris wheel and a huge flying swing set were built right next to the lake. Visitors could also jump into the lake to cool off or try some paddleboarding or kayaking. However, the park's biggest attraction seemed to be the man-made swimming pool that had been dug out from the nearby lake. It had several diving boards and water slides. A beautiful bathhouse with a speakeasy was built for Saturday night dancing. The park quickly became a very popular place to visit. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before a series of freak accidents would begin to occur on the property. In 1927, only about a year after the park opened, Conley's own family was struck by tragedy. Conley's family lived in a hotel near the property so that he could be close to the park and handle its day-to-day operations. One day, his 3-year-old daughter was playing near the giant elevator in the lobby. These old elevators are unlike the ones that we have today. They were made of very heavy doors, and they did not have the emergency precautions we now have in place to prevent accidents from happening. As Conley's daughter played, she suddenly ran towards the elevator as it was beginning to ascend. But she didn't make it. She was crushed and killed in a devastating freak accident. Conley was shattered by the accident. However, he continued to keep the park open, not knowing that her unfortunate death would mark the beginning of many more tragedies at Lake Shawnee. Visitors would eventually forget about the tragic accident that occurred at the hotel, and many continued to flock the park every summer. Fun and laughter were heard for many years. Unfortunately, that wouldn't last. In 1940, soda was being delivered to the park to restock the concession stands that were running low on that hot day. Some of the concession stands were placed really close to a lot of the rides so that people could easily walk up and purchase whatever they wanted. On this particular day, the delivery truck unknowingly parked in an area that was too close to the flying swing set. The swing set started up, and its riders began to quickly pick up speed and drift further and further into the range of the parked truck. Unaware, the driver backed up and ran right into the zone of the swings and struck a little girl. She died on impact. The tragedies didn't end there. A drowning occurred in 1961 when 6-year-old Wayne Harmon jumped into the pool unsupervised. He was found hours later when another swimmer brushed up against his body near the end of the pool. July 3rd, 1966. 9-year-old John Talley was dropped off at the pool in the morning as his mother went to work. When he didn't come home, his family returned to the park to try to find him. When the family couldn't locate him, a search team was assembled to look for him in the surrounding wooded areas. The search continued late into the night, but John was nowhere to be found. Someone on the search team began to notice a dark shadow on the bottom end of the pool. As they looked closer, they discovered that the shadow was the body of the little boy. In an unfortunate accident, John's arm had been caught on the drain of the pool and drowned. It's been reported that a total of 6 deaths occurred at Lake Shawnee while it was in operation. Conley began to feel guilt over the tragedies. He recognized that his own daughter had been killed at the property, and he felt in some ways responsible for the deaths. Finally, afraid that more accidents would occur, he abruptly closed the park to the public in 1966. The years passed, and nature began to slowly reclaim its land. The abandoned rides began to decay and break down. Rust appeared on the long-forgotten Ferris wheel. The coal mining industry changed, and families began to move away and soon forgot about the park. The property was left in ruins for almost 20 years. It seemed as if the only people that didn't forget about the park were the local residents. Some even felt the need to restore the park to its original glory. In 1985, local resident Gaylord White heard that the family was finally selling the land, and he immediately purchased the property with the hopes of reopening. However, his attempts at restoring the park were met with many difficult and disturbing roadblocks. Shortly after purchasing the property, White's team began to excavate the land to construct new buildings. What they found on the land was troubling. At first, the digging uncovered what looked like tools, arrowheads, and pottery that appeared Native American. White immediately stopped the bulldozing and invited local colleges, Marshall and Concord, to collect the artifacts that had been uncovered. Unfortunately, that wasn't all they discovered. After more digging, they found 21 human remains, including that of 13 children. The colleges concluded that as many as 3,000 Native American bodies were found, and that there had been 2 separate settlements on the property from centuries ago. The amusement park had literally been built on the bones of the Native Americans that had lived there long before. The original landowner was a man named Mitchell Clay from Eastern Virginia. He was a wealthy tobacco farmer, and in 1775, Mitchell Clay, his wife, and 14 children moved onto the land and soon had a prosperous farm with wheat, cattle, and tobacco. Everything seemed to be going well for the Clay family until one day in August 1783. The Shawnee tribe had lived in the surrounding land since the 1400s and were unhappy that the Clays had settled into a land that had not belonged to them. One day, while Mitchell went out to hunt, his family and wife were brutally attacked by the Shawnee tribe. Two of his children, Bartley and Tabitha, were murdered on the property. Their eldest son, Ezekiel, was taken captive by the tribe. Mrs. Clay remained inside the home with the younger children, watching the gruesome murders unfold before her. She eventually fled into the woods with her children 6 miles towards the safety of a neighbor. When Mitchell returned, he learned about the attack and vowed vengeance. He immediately pursued the natives with several men in tow. He managed to find the attackers and his son, but unfortunately it was too late. Ezekiel had been beaten and burned alive at the stake. Further details emerged about a crime of passion that was committed near the land. In 1935, 25-year-old James Kraft Belcher lived on the property with his grandparents. He was dating a woman named Myrtle Taylor, who had also grown up near the area. Myrtle and Belcher had been friendly for some time. However, Myrtle, who was only 19 years old, continued to date other people. On May 11, 1935, Belcher found Myrtle at a restaurant eating dinner with another man. In a fit of jealousy, Belcher angrily pleaded with Myrtle to leave with him. When she rejected his pleas, he violently forced her into the car and drove her towards his grandparents' property. He parked his car near some trees and forced her to exit the car. Belcher then pulled out a gun, shot Myrtle twice in the head, and threw her back into the car. Frightened at what he had done, he decided to drive to the hospital. Myrtle was still alive when she arrived, but she quickly went into a coma and died a few hours later. Belcher eventually went to trial for her murder, and he claimed that his actions were an act of temporary insanity. However, the jury convicted Belcher of murder, and he was sent to prison, where he died in 1993 at the age of 83. After learning about the history of the land, the White family never continued their dreams of rebuilding the park. Instead, the decaying rides and attractions have been left behind, never to be disturbed again. The park is still open for curious visitors and paranormal investigators from around the world. However, the owners advise that a peace offering should be presented as a form of respect to those who have lost their lives on the land. The remnants of the past seem to haunt the land. Witnesses have described a little girl in a pink dress playing in different areas of the park, and the revolving swing set is said to move on its own. To this day, paranormal researchers continue to search for answers about what haunts the land. The violent and tragic deaths seem to have settled on the property and claimed it as their own. So, now that we've explored the history of this abandoned park, what do you think could be haunting this location? Could we really be capturing evidence of the children who lost their lives here? Let us know in the comments down below, and let me know what you think of this video. Thanks for watching.